you want me to begin, or are you starting? Or?
You start.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tonight's May 20th Public Works Committee meeting. Call to order. A roll call would be in order first.
Reamer.
Here.
Litigo.
Here.
Denker.
Here.
Koski.
Here.
We're good.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
I'll make an approval of the agenda as written.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Further discussion. If not, call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public communications and comments. I do not see any public here. Do we have to wait
Nope.
for any other means for anyone to comment? Okay.
Nope.
So item 3 is handled. Approval of the minutes from April 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved.
I have to abstain because I wasn't
Oh,
here.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Abstention doesn't really need to be done, I don't think, but it's certainly your prerogative. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Yep.
Okay. Discussion items. 5, item A, or letter A, department updates, organization and staff.
You want to start?
No, you're
All right,
telling
so,
you.
since I've come on board, we have had a significant change in staff, is the way I'll put it, due to retirements, a couple of bodies leaving for greener pastures. So in the past year, between streets, water, and sanitary sewer, or the wastewater treatment plant, I should say, we've had 11 hires. And that includes our Assistant Director of Public Works, Katie Anding. So Katie comes to us from Columbus, and along with a lifelong career in wastewater treatment. So actually, Katie, why don't you just give a brief backdrop to your background?
Well, I've been doing wastewater for 30 plus years. I started in the city of Columbus and moved to Florida, and I was in Florida for 20 years, and then came back to Columbus in 21, and then this beautiful position came open, and here we are.
I'll just mention that as part of some other transitions and the realignment of the department, we created the Assistant Director of Public Works position to fall under the Director of Public Works. The position replaced the former utility manager, and that position now being more under the umbrella of Public Works instead of more independent, try to bring it back into Public Works as a whole. So just the skill sets of everybody and change in leadership within the department made it easier to make that call and that switch and try to kind of create one unified department instead of two independent departments.
So it would appear that the changes that Adam has put into place and that what Katie and I are bringing to the table are having some positive influence on the crew. We've gotten some compliments as of late, and hopefully the community is observing some improved performance and maybe some outcomes. So we'll go over some of that. Work highlights, to sit down and try to create a list for you, I just sat down, I just printed off a year's worth of monthly reports. So every month we submit a monthly report to the council. Things that come to mind in the past year, we've done the downtown streetscaping, which was the ornamental signposts. We did a sign diet. We tried to reduce the amount of signage down there. One of them included, I think we consolidated 3 different no parking signs into one parking sign.
One no parking sign.
Or one no parking sign, sorry. 3 different no parking signs into one no parking sign. So we added the downtown or the historic district signage just recently. Planters, trash cans, and I think there's some more coming. I don't know if, are you and Craig working on those?
Not yet. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Parks and cemeteries, we did last May, we did an analysis of basically a time study as far as what it takes, during the start of the season, peak growing time, to cut the grass and get the parks and cemeteries whipped into shape for Memorial Day weekend. What we learned, it takes 7 to 9 people all week long. We have a staff of 10. So in the month of May, the marching orders are is parks and cemeteries are our primary responsibility. So that's what hopefully we'll be working on all this week. The rain's probably going to give us a little difficulty with that, but as of last week, I thought they looked pretty darn good. This week should just be about going through and giving it another pass and getting it ready.
I got a question for you on that. I have some concerns from citizens about weed whacking around the stones or something. They're worried about.
Cemeteries.
Yeah, in the cemetery. And they wanted to know if there was a way to be careful around those, because they're very soft and they're falling apart. And I'm not to make it harder for you, but
Right,
I just wanted to express the concerns that I get from people, and it's kind of like, really? Okay.
yeah, I don't have a solution for you, because if we don't weed whack, we get the complaints. If we do
I
weed
know.
whack, we get the complaints, so.
Okay, well,
you
They
know.
can also, if they're concerned about it, they can take a more active role within their gravesite and
Yeah.
remove those.
Right.
well, that would be the people that
Yeah.
are relatives.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's probably fewer and fewer relatives around that are taking an ownership interest as far as the care and maintenance of the headstones, things
So
like
there's
that.
no way to spray around them or something like that? you know?
Yeah, if then it kills
Then
all
it
the
kills all of them,
vegetation.
yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to give them an answer when they come up and knock
Yeah.
on my door. Okay.
I've not identified a weed whacker that's got a guard on it. So.
Or that hasn't, it's not as hard, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
We have had a couple of oops. There was a lady that got a hold of the foreman, a ceramic figurine got hit by a lawnmower. I told the foreman, I said, tell her to buy another one, send me the receipt, and it was an inexpensive item. There's probably going to be some policy changes. Right now, our policies still allow people to plant trees. If you saw what we're paying to remove dead trees,
Yeah.
you would say we're not going to plant trees. I think that
Wait, you can
90,000.
plant trees at the cemetery?
What's that?
At the cemetery, you're saying?
Yeah, the policy still allows for that. Of the 90,000 that we paid to Gabe's for tree removal, I would venture a guess that 20 to 25 grand of that was for trees in the cemeteries that had to come down that our guys could not perform. They had to bring in a crane to get some of those, and there's more dying. So, those oak trees that were around here when the country was first established are also starting to succumb, so it won't be long. One of them actually, in the last snowstorm we had, finally succumbed. We found out that it looked like it was just the bark holding the tree up because it was all rotted on the inside. So. We are pushing more towards the narrower zero-turn lawnmowers for in the cemeteries. I don't know why we have been enamored with the front decks, which have then the rear projecting engine compartment that then swings wide when you have to make a turn. So we are starting to make those kind of changes. We did the Highway 23 intersection traffic control signal project last year. That went to LEDs, updated the control cabinets to be more modern, and then added the accessible pedestrian, the kind that give you the audible signal for the crosswalks. Replaced an industrial park sign out at the corner of Bayer and North Douglas. Made improvements to the Frisbee golf course. Did the volleyball courts in in Barlow Park. Got largely caught up on street line painting last year. Continue to make several repairs to major pieces of equipment. We had to rebuild the auger assembly on the salt box for one of the plow trucks. The line painting spray machine, we had to rebuild the pump on that. I know that our grader has some rear steer hydraulic pistons that have to be rebuilt in place because we can't disengage the pins that hold them in place because they're so rusted in. We're about done with our DPW facility design, which we'll share with you that later. Railroad crossing improvements. At our urging, Watco came in and made some maintenance repairs to all of their crossings last year, and they are actively working towards rebuilding the east crossing on Oshkosh, and then working with us to remove the crossing at Alliance Laundry. We're going to enter into an agreement to allow them to put it in later, if they ever show a need for it later on.
Is there a timeline that's been
It's supposed to be July. That's what they're telling us.
starting work in July or finishing in July?
They're going to start in July.
Okay.
It's, typically, they don't want it down any longer than, because it makes it impassable for them. So my gut feeling is that it will be a couple days. They typically come in, they're pre-built. They come in, they'll remove what's there, and they drop in the new one, put it in place, and then they'll leave it to us to then meet them.
Come up to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
We have been entering information into a electronic system for our cemeteries, as far as being it, so that in the future, people can actually go to this program and they can actually research people or their relatives to see where they're located and any history that we might have. As a result of an inspection down here on as a result of an accident down here on Pacific Street, we hired MSA to inspect all of our non-DOT bridges. We're going to touch on that later. Road patching, we engage annually. County is usually the low bid on it. So last year the county did 2 large patches on Scott Street. Within the first couple of days here, I had a resident called me and asked me to take a look at the block of Scott Street between Blackburn and Houston. Said there was actually mud coming up through, and indeed she was right. So knowing that Scott is not on any future program for street reconstruction, we worked with the county to make 2 large patches there. That block of Scott is likely going to be a continuing effort for patches again this year. We would try to do more every year with the county, except that we're limited by state law to, there's a $20,000 figure where if you exceed that, $25,000 figure, then we have to competitively bid it. And so we try to stay under that $25,000 because typically the county is the lesser. And I don't know that the county even participates in trying to bid on projects over 25, do they?
They do not.
Yeah.
Quick question on that. On Highway 44, as we're going out of town, before the school and after the school, it seems like all the sewer manhole covers have sunk or something. And you
Actually,
go through
that's
there-
along that whole stretch of road.
Yeah, and it's because it's so soft, or is it because
Well,
it was, just has so many layers of asphalt on it?
I think the upper rings are deteriorating, so
Okay.
coincident, is it this year or next year that?
I think it's next year.
So the state is redoing 44 from Ripon to
Brandon.
Brandon.
Oh, wow.
And with that, some of those structures were incorporated into that,
Oh,
are
okay.
within the extent of that. We signed an agreement with them. They're going to extend it another 30 feet to get one more structure incorporated into it, instead of us cutting open the road and putting a patch just 25 feet away from a brand new road. So we're working on that, but it has been pointed out by others that manholes along all the way to East Fond du Lac can use some love.
Oh,
We got some of them taken care of with that project, which is not
Oh, I
that
think they're
easy.
doing a great job, as far as getting the potholes and stuff like that fixed or trying to get stuff evened off. And I understand, where you're at, but it's kind of like question.
Yeah.
Part of it is about first getting my bearings as to what's going on around here, and then starting to fit things into
Oh, yeah.
queue here for a game plan. Stump grinding, our own crew completed, I want estimated maybe 40, 45 stumps. And then recently, a contractor has all but completed a list of 96 stumps. The bid that we got was right around $15,000 to do 96 stumps. So
Do you own your own stump grinder, or do you lease one out?
we rent, the only one that we rent from Modern Rentals. We've tried looking for a bigger one. The only company that had a bigger stump grinder where we could make better time was,
Vermeer?
no, the
Sunbelt?
Sunbelt.
Okay.
Well, I reached out to them. They're out of the big stump grinder business. What I'm finding out from all the rental agencies is they were making too many repairs, so they've just decided they're going to stick with the small ones for where they have a better experience. So the company that I've engaged with, I've done work with them in 2 other communities in the Fox Valley area, and so I contacted him, and as long as I've got at least a full day's worth of work or more, they're willing to come down here. So
Well, that's decent.
the work I threw at him, he thought he'd get done in 2 days. Well, it's going to be 3. He's coming back hopefully one day this week to finish up. He's got 10 more stumps to do, and actually 2 more that I added if he can make it within that full day.
Thank you.
Did the Griswold weight limit signage last year. That was fun.
Wasn't put up in time, apparently.
Apparently not. Well, in time for the next one.
There you go.
We'll know when it didn't work.
We did participate in the holiday parade. Leaf collection. Between October 9th and December 1st, I am told that in the past, we ceased leaf collection on the Friday before deer hunting started. This year, we continued as we migrated 1 leaf truck at a time from leaf collection to snow plowing mode. We kept the other 2 going and then the other 1 going until we were done migrating through. And actually, there was not much of a need by the beginning of December for leaf collection. So we went through the city 7 times. We started an 8th before closing operations, which was the December 3rd snow event. So we got pretty lucky with the timing there. We collected 197 truckloads for an estimated 4,927 cubic yards of leaves.
Do those go right to the compost center?
Yes,
And
yes.
they're right in compost? They
Yes.
can fill and everything?
Well, we're obligated to turn it and monitor temperatures to meet the DNR requirements, and then we have to find a source to dispose of it at some point in time. And right now, we're working with a farmer. He is just trying to coordinate the trucking. We told him that we would load it for them as long as they got the trucking, and they've got a place near Amro that they want to take it to, so.
What temperature do you have to monitor?
I don't know. I'd have to talk to my foreman. There's a temperature you have to achieve. It's supposed to kill certain microbes, but then be beneficial to others, something like that, so.
It's probably like 120 to 135, so you're not like pasteurizing your mulch.
Yeah.
I know the 140, I think, is what you have to pasteurize it, if I recall
Looks like the
correctly.
book of matches turned into, I'm just kidding.
Not very good burn, because it's pretty wet
Fine.
when it's.
Last year was pretty light with snow and ice removal. However, in January, in just the we had 2 significant storm events and 1 freezing fog event that that resulted in 285 regular man hours, 251 overtime hours, and we used an estimated 188 tons of road salt. So just to give you a flavor for.
What's a typical year of road salt?
Typical year, based on past records, is right around 900 tons. This year, we used about half of that. We had 3 events in February. However, February, those are mostly like light events. 9 OT hours, 59 regular hours, 42 tons of road salt. But February got so warm and was so nice for so long that we ended up removing 75 or 76 trees out of 3 parks. All of them were dead. So, and then as of right now, the remaining ash tree inventory in this community is 38 trees. I'm working towards letting a contract for at least half of those, just due to size and height and proximity to power lines or people's homes, things like that.
You're talking 38 dead ones.
Dead ones.
Right.
Well,
So I still have a
even
lot
if, even if they have leaves, they're dead.
Not mine, mine's getting treated. I mean.
Good luck to you with that, but
Well, so far,
you can call me a naysayer, but
it looks good yet, so I don't know.
But do you know what's inside?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Some of them look good on the outside, but on the inside, they're all rotten.
Is that how many we have left? 38 total?
in the city, between right-of-ways, and there's a couple
Yeah.
still in the parks.
So when about a year and a half ago, we had 200. So
Yeah.
between our staff and contracts, we've gotten rid of.
And of those, so we did, in 2022, that's when the city had all the trees inventoried in the parks and along the right-of-ways. From that 2022 survey, outside of the ash trees, there's still 138 trees that were identified for removal of other species. So we still have a fair amount of work to do. So.
Is this one of those we're kind of playing catch up on tree removal that probably should have been done, years ago because of the age of the trees and
Yeah,
the condition of
and-
the trees?
In fairness to my predecessors, it's darn hard to keep that inventory. The GIS app really helps you at a moment's notice, just take a quick look and see where do we stand, and so
Right.
that you can start mentally start creating some thought processes as far as a game plan. Otherwise, you'd be constantly going out in the field trying to figure out what's what. And
Yep.
I'll just say that there was no comprehensive emerald ash borer management plan that the city implemented until the last 2-3 years. And that strategy could have been implemented previously to help save some or treat some and get ahead of it, but that has long passed opportunities to do that, so.
I think the only time I remember them taking trees down was after a storm,
Yeah.
so they could get federal funding.
Sure. In the community I came from, they did a survey, DNR-funded survey, and developed an emerald ash borer game plan in 2011, 2012. They had close to 1,000 ash trees. And what my predecessor there told me is that try as he may, the elected officials there staunchly said, we do not cut down live trees, even though that they knew it was coming. I got there in 2018. Things looked pretty good. By that fall, I could start to tell that trees were dying. And by the time I left in 2023, we were just wrapping up a contract to remove, I think there was 370 some trees left. We let a contract for around 275 trees. And the staff was going to take care of the rest, were all 15-inch diameter or smaller.
We have planted trees too, so
Yes.
we've tried to help with that.
I did. Last fall, we planted 43 trees. This spring, we planted 41. Obviously, this fall, there'll be more. And that's the other thing with the tree app, is we can also designate which ones are in a watering program so that I can just key on that and I can develop maps and numbers. And right now there's, off of memory, about 105 trees in a watering program.
Was that something that a citizen could make a request and kind of ask for a tree to be planted
Yes.
in a place that they need, and they could reach out to the department for, some,
There's a tree planting program online, as well as in parks, you can donate a tree.
okay.
Making a note here, we have a new position to help us with communications. We'll try to hit a little harder on the social media with the request to tree. I think last year, of the 43 that we planted, only 9 of them were street trees. I'll let Katie talk when I'm done here. Katie will talk about our safety training day that is coming up next week. I could do a full day of safety training for the Department of Public Works. And right now, we're trying to wrap up the building design so that they can go to bid. And then knowing that construction could start as soon as, let's say, July or August, we're working on cleaning up our yard and getting rid of an accumulation of items over the decades, so that it's the first thing that will have to be, the first phase will include the stormwater management pond, which will be bordering Silver Creek and that whole area back there where everything was stored for the past decades. Why don't you talk about the...
Not to interrupt you, but
Go ahead.
I had a bunch of people that were concerned about, we don't do large item pickup, junk pickup anymore. I think we need to either communicate better that they can get their free ticket or whatever it is, because it used to be during this time of year that the city would do that, and there's some elderly people that can't get stuff to the dump. Well, people aren't upset to volunteer to take their stuff in, but the point is they don't understand if I did something for a neighbor, could I use their free ticket? And
Yeah, so I mean, it's as simple as just going online and requesting a dump ticket.
Yeah.
Or calling and getting the arrangement done.
Yeah.
We're not gonna.
but they don't understand
Yeah,
that, because all those years you used to have the stuff on the curb and everybody pick stuff
And I
through
think
and then pick
that's-
it up, so.
That's been changed for at least a decade.
Well, it's been a while, but the point is
I'm hearing
they're
something
concerned.
else, though.
Yeah.
What I think I'm hearing is that if an elderly person doesn't have the physical ability to take it themselves, how can their free dump ticket be used to take their stuff there?
That's it.
And I'm wondering, is it as simple as them going with the Good Samaritan that's helping them out to present the dump ticket?
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of,
Right.
the idea, because, like I said, if I go over and say, well, gee, I'm getting the dump ticket for such and such an address,
Right.
and I'm taking their stuff in for them, I wouldn't be able to do that without them physically being there.
It's a simple call to that resident
Okay.
and to confirm.
Well, they don't understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll work with people on it. It's not.
Right,
yeah.
we'd still
Yeah.
want that, we'd still want the rightful owner of the dump ticket to secure it from us, and then be with the party that is helping them to
Right.
present it, just so that we know that it's being properly used.
Well, I understand that too,
Right.
but like I said, there were concerns by people that would ask, and it was kind of like, I'll talk about it, or
Right.
find out, so.
Yeah, just a couple of questions before you move on.
Sure.
The one that I've got from people is not ash tree related, but in the other survey, like the ones that were marked dead or dying.
Okay.
When you look at it, are any of those in the plan to remove this year? Is it focusing on ash trees first?
Focusing on ash trees, and then probably the next is, I have taken a number of calls, probably upwards of close to 10, on silver maples.
Okay.
So we are starting to look at that then also, and trying to figure out what are the criteria where, if it's not just silver maples, but if we're looking at then the broad range of species, how do we start prioritizing?
cemetery, you said the manpower.
Yep.
Basically taking up all of May, basically. Like
Cemeteries and parks.
And parks, 8 to 9
Yep.
people. When do you start getting college help back? Can you start?
We have been advertising since like February.
Okay. Are you getting people?
No.
Okay.
You know, nobody's responded. We are personally reaching out to like high school teachers and principals that have access to juniors and seniors, 16 and older, that might to get our advertisement in front of a crowd or the people that would be most likely to apply or.
Yeah. I was just thinking of like, Mother's Day, everyone leaves at Ripon College, right? Everyone's gone.
Yeah.
But there's still like 50 of them here wandering around. So
Yeah.
it's,
We have been, communities across probably at least the state, if not the nation, are struggling to get summer help right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what jobs they're working or if they are working jobs. We have 2 retired individuals right now helping us out.
And one college.
And 1 college kid.
Yeah.
I don't know that he would have applied if it weren't for the fact that he's
Yeah.
doing double duty.
Yeah.
and then last, just a personal question, like I don't know if it's you or Parks and Rec, at Barlow Park, there's like a new sign up, and it's like, only park-related activity. What does that mean? What's not park-related activity that you're doing in a park?
I don't know if there's a new sign.
I just noticed it like 2 weeks ago. It was like,
Not to respond for him, but I think there was some drug dealing going on in one of the parks. And they don't want people parked in there and doing their
does
deals
the
in
sign
there.
stop that? Is that all we need?
Well,
I was just saying-
no, I'm just saying, that way they're not loitering there all day waiting for their
I think
fun.
that would be one of those where it would lead to one of our awesome patrol officers being able to say, hey, that looks like you kind of been sitting there not doing anything in the park.
Well, you have to have
And
a
they
sign
say,
for it.
oh, well, we're gonna stop and ask you a question because here's the whatever, cause that we have.
And I think a lot of the reaction from the city, just generally, is if there's an issue, let's put a sign up. And at least we're addressing it.
Okay.
But that.
We did something.
We did it.
We tried, it was
I was just
step
wondering,
one.
so. I didn't have any questions about it, anyway, it's just.
I'll have to go look for it.
Go wander, oh, there it is.
Maybe it's been there for a long time, and I just
I think it
noticed
has.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
All right. When I started here, we identified that the safety training had kind of gone by the wayside for the employees. So we identified a company out of Appleton that does safety training. So we elected to set a training day for the water, wastewater, DPW crew. And that will be on Wednesday of next week. And we will be doing lockout, tagout, excuse me, confined space awareness, trench and shoring, hearing conservation, electrical safety, PPE, fall protection, emergency action plans, walking, working surfaces, and bloodborne pathogens. We will then continue on another date to do confined space, an actual confined space training with water and wastewater guys and any DPW guys that may need it, but that would be a smaller crew, so that's what's coming on Wednesday.
I'll just note that the city's insurance provider, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance Company, is covering 50% of the cost for the training.
Is it all in-house or outside trainers?
Outside trainer.
Outside trainers.
I have a question on your hearing protection
Sure.
options. So I worked in a research lab factory area alliance, and they always had like 2 earplug options available, which was super nice because everyone has slightly different ears. But my brother still works for them and said they dropped down to 1, and it's the cheaper one, of course, and they're not nearly as nice. So I was just wondering, how do you handle it? Do you just order a bunch, or you have a couple selections, or you let the guys and gals pick their own?
As far as I know, we just have the one. I don't know exactly what we have, but I know that we also provide ear muffs. So
Double.
especially when it comes to riding on a lawnmower all day long or working a chainsaw. So they're encouraged to double up on those venues, and some of the guys will also bring radio earmuffs so that when they're doing lawn cutting, they can listen to some tunes or podcasts or whatever while they're cutting the lawn. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
We did sign a new contract with, well, we solicited new contracts, proposals for recycling collection with the intent purpose of increasing the size of the carts from 64 gallon to 96 gallon. Got quotes from Harder's, GFL, and Waste Management. Waste Management was clearly the lowest monthly cost at $5 per cart per month. Everyone else was, I think the next lowest was almost $2 per cart per month more. And there are triggers for cost of living or inflationary increases from year to year. Waste Management was lower. Everyone else was, they were not willing to max it out to say like 5%, whereas Waste Management was willing to max it out. So if cost of living was actually 10%, we suffer I think a 5%, something like that. We were struggling have been experiencing some struggles in the last month. Hopefully Waste Management has sorted that out. Last week, they have made a decision, and starting last week, they're putting 2 trucks in Ripon every Wednesday to get the job done. I don't know if it's just different staff or if the larger carts are slowing them down. Ultimately, what happens is that there are some hours limitations on their drivers, and so they have to adhere to that. And what I was hearing is that the drivers were approaching their maximum number of hours before they were completing the route. So the dialogue that I was having for at least the 3rd and 4th week of unacceptable results was, can you arguably get through these routes in one day with one driver, or do you need to add a second driver, or do you need to split us up into 3 routes? And that's, they chose to, rather than split us up into 3 routes, they chose to add a second driver to each of the 2 routes. So hopefully that will go better. Last week there was a couple of one side of 2 different streets that was missed. I'll take that as probably a learning moment for the drivers as they maneuver through neighborhoods. They got one side but forgot the other side. So we'll see if things get better going forward here.
I have a question. On this contract, is this a multiple year contract that you set up with
5
them, or
years.
is it just
I think
1
it's
year?
3 with renewed of 5.
Okay, good.
Is the arm on the trucks adjustable speed? The reason I ask that is sometimes you'll see on my street, all of the containers are laying on their side or the top's off them, and then the next week they're all perfect. So I'm going,
That's a driver issue. That's a driver using the control, just not to, sometimes I think what's happening is the driver's trying to be overly efficient before learning everything, and if they're tipped over, it's because he hasn't retracted the arm before moving forward. They've got him down on the ground. I've heard stories where they've set him down too hard and cracked the cart. So if they're doing it right, they should be able to, after it's dumped, go slow until the lid is down, then increase the rate of speed until it gets just close to ground, softly set it down, retract, then move forward. For the roads that I saw where carts were strewn all about, you could tell that they're moving forward before they had retracted the arm.
And just to reiterate, if you get concerns or questions, just leave the can out, and we'll get somebody back to collect it that week. Let us know. You can certainly let us know. that is helpful. Calling Waste Management, as much as we would encourage you to do that, it's probably easier to reach out to DPW or send an email to let us know versus sitting on hold there. So, so I think the new cards have a component of, and the new driver is kind of a perfect storm for things to be missed at times. And we've tried to keep on top of it at best. Alan's had to deal a lot with Waste Management, and hopefully the second truck solves it.
Did you say email or call
Yep.
the department?
Yeah, call
Just
DP.
say, hey, okay.
Yeah, I was missed, just leave it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
The, Carrie, our administrative assistant, she's one of the new hires. She does a really good job, and since she is learning, still in a learning mode, but she has been taking it upon herself to, as she gets calls periodically throughout the day, she'll send out the email, copy me, and possibly even Adam on it, and send it directly to our route manager and say,
Yep.
here's what's being missed, and then typically sometime in the afternoon, if, I'll
Okay.
reach out to the manager and just say, we've got to come up with a solution here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on safety?
That's all I got on
All right,
safety.
very good. Then we have our capital projects. Last year, we had the State Street project, which was driven by the bridge. Since we had to redo the bridge by the cemetery, we figured we might as well, that's an opportunity to do from State Street from West Street all the way to Union. As we got into it, realized that there was some advantages to going across the intersection. I think it had to do with water main, getting all the way to the next valve for water main. So, what else do we have?
Tigard Street Bridge is moving forward this year. There's been DNR delay, so that will be, they've started the bid out last year. It'll continue into this year. And then last year, we also did the trail up at the park, Murray Park, and a couple odds and ends things.
What about the Fond du Lac Street Bridge? Just down the road here. Is that Tigard Street Bridge, or is that, the one I'm talking about?
On Fond du
It's
Lac.
not really a bridge, it's a overpass. But, yeah, where the river comes, or the creek comes through.
Talking about East Fond du Lac or West Fond du Lac?
It's on East Fond, it's on East Fond du Lac.
At
It's
the
just down the
intersection,
road here.
at the intersection of Douglas?
It's on the intersection of Tigard and it comes this way.
The bridge
Tigard
is right
Street
down here.
starts here, yeah, the one that's
Yeah.
down here. Is
Yeah.
that the Tigard Street Bridge?
No.
or that's a different one?
That's, the Tigard Street Bridge is the one that caved in
Okay.
and, by
Well,
Horner
that
Park.
one's,
Yeah, that one's
irrelevant
being-
anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
that's
about the
what
other
I was
one.
wondering about, the big one.
yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Then the 2024 capital project is St. Wenceslas Street. That's a complete rebuild, utilities and street. We did work with the school district to add some sidewalk along the stadium, and then the school district on the west side wanted to increase the width of the terrace, so they took it upon themselves to reach out to property owners and got easements to move the sidewalk a couple of feet into their property so that we can have a wider terrace for future. Their vision is tree planting. They're trying to create an atmosphere leading up to the stadium. So, and then that led to discussions with Alliant Energy, which Alliant Energy is making some. They're putting in some conduit in preparation that in the future they would, if they're able to, they would then put their overhead power underground. So we'll see where that goes. 2025 looks like we're going to do Houston Street. Adam put together a grant application, and we received over $600,000 towards that project.
Well, Houston, yeah, 2025, 2026 will be
Yeah.
Houston, and we also applied for Hamburg Henny CDBG grant last week. It was due, so we submitted that. So, capital road projects over the next 2 years will be Hamburg Henny as a project, and then Houston as a project.
Okay,
The full of Houston?
Full Houston reconstruct.
okay, in the end of Fond du Lac Street from Stanton Street out to Douglas Street, is that gonna get on the schedule someday, or?
We have a longer range plan. We'll have to go through that because there are a lot of more pressing areas than that. When we start looking at our capital improvement plan, which we're reworking and moving forward, right? St. Wenceslas received a small LRIP grant, which is just a local road improvement project. Hamburg Henny is a CDBG income project. If we get a funding there, you have 3 years after before you can apply for another one. And then Houston's receiving a $640,000 LRIP grant. Just from my understanding of knowledge of how these things work, our funding for these projects is going to be harder and harder to obtain after the Houston Street project is done, right? Because there's only so many times you can go and be competitive in an ultra-competitive grant cycle at a state level, where they say, well, you got one last year, or the year cycle before, you're not getting another one. The reason I know that is because I've served on the committees that make the decisions, giving out millions of dollars to communities, and if you've received an LRIP and you're asking for a BIL, or you've got a BIL and you're asking for an LRIP, or what, all the funding, it all comes into play when you're talking about scoring projects. So, part of the things we've been doing, rate increases for utilities to assist with a more aggressive capital campaign for road work. Beyond that, there's going to be some very difficult conversations that this community needs to have regarding funding of infrastructure, because the projects that we have remaining are not tiny projects. And with a state highway project coming in 2030, that's going to cost a lot of money as well. We're planning for that now, right? That's out there. But in the interim, we still have to do projects. We look at Griswold, where there's utility issues and road condition issues. We look at Liberty Street, Upper Liberty. It is a really bad problem, big problem. For residents up there, road condition shot. Those two projects are arguably $2+ million projects, right? You can break them down, but by the time you're there, you know, so we could go around the community, look at all these other stretches, and say, let's do them. The fact of the matter is we have to have a more comprehensive funding strategy moving forward, because our grant applications, although we've been successful over the last couple of years, and into the future, the short-term future, long-term, there's a big problem. And we are aware of it. Everybody understands it, right? I mean, it's a big complaint. Fix the roads, we get it, right? But you are talking about St. Wenceslas and State Street, both of which are small roads that are over $1 million. You know, so we're working through, and we are actually at a point now where we are a year or two ahead with our plans. So we need to continue doing that. So we have basically projects ready to go in the can, right? So we're not planning from behind or trying to scramble. St. Wenceslas, we were scrambling a little bit. We still got a competitive price on St. Wenceslas and a lot of bidders on it. But we don't want to be planning a project in January. We want to start planning a project in June for the coming year. So we still have some work to do in terms of planning and funding. So those are big questions that need to be answered over the next couple of years, because we can have as detailed of a capital improvement plan and put 100 roads on it, but if we're not willing to fund them we're just wasting our time. And the cost of these things clearly, as you can see later on here, with if you add bridges, you add other components to them, you start seeing this rack up pretty quickly to be big dollars.
I had a comment from a constituent that just said, you know, we just want to know, is it 1 year from now or is it 5 years from now? You know, that we might be in the schedule. So I think just starting to look, 5, 6, 7 years down and say, okay, well, we know the condition of these roads, place it about here at the current rate. If something happens, then you might move it up a year or two, but looking that far out, it really gives you that scope of, okay, what do we have to tackle sooner rather than later? And then it also gives the community the information, they can say, oh yeah, okay, we're looking at this road, we're looking at this area in this many years because its condition right now is this compared to, okay, your neighbors over here are dealing with this, and so that's why they're gonna be moved up, in front of these other places just a little bit. And that, I think that's helpful for the community to know, is there's a plan, that, they're actually working towards something and not just going, oh, well, this water main just completely imploded and now we're gonna have to rip up the whole road. Oh, and now it's all ripped up, we're gonna have to go and pave it, and then all of a sudden you're on the hook for $2.5 million or whatever it is, so.
So what would be the rough cycle? I know it's probably a wild guess, but if you said we're gonna replace 1/25 every 25 years, or 1/25 for 25 years to take care of the whole city, do we know that, is there a pattern of action along those lines to say?
What do we have, about 50 miles of road?
40-ish, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what it is.
So 1/25, divide that, you're looking at 1.5 miles a year.
It's a lot of road.
That's at $1 million for complete,
Rebuild.
for complete, doing the utilities and the road. At $1 million, State Street last year was $1 million.
1.2,
What was Wenceslas now?
932.
And that's what, half a mile?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you almost have to look at it that way, though.
You do.
Because if you put it off, it's gonna
Yep.
be more expensive
Right.
for the next
Right.
group of people,
Yep.
generation of folks, neighbors, all that.
Yep.
Right. You're absolutely right. In the first community that I did this line of work, they're not fully urbanized, so a lot of country roads, but they had 90 plus miles of road. I did the analysis, and it's like, your typical country asphalt road might last 25 to 30 years. The arterial ones, you're lucky if you got 20 years out of them. So I did the analysis, and just to get caught up over the course of 20 years, the path that I put them on was somewhere between 3 and 4 miles a year of road.
And the things that aren't getting factored in, right, are the bridges. It's also in a
Right.
utility perspective of needing new wells, new other infrastructure for supply and not just distribution. All of these things get factored in. So coming up with the magic sauce or magic mix of what gets replaced and when can be really difficult. We may have to do, more of a mill and overlay 1 year and then do a reconstruct the next when we get in a healthier pattern that we can sustain. Right now,
No, I get that.
yeah,
I
it's just
A pattern of some
Yep.
sort, though,
Yep.
needs to be
that's
considered.
that's really where we're headed with capital and planning, and ultimately we can put together, like I said, anything. If we're not willing to fund it, then it doesn't matter. But we're certainly playing catch up in every road that we're digging into. We are looking at it as a complete rebuild right now. So
So a solution that is, one answer is coming soon, I've talked to you about it. Graphene as a component, have you been reading about that in your literature?
No.
Cement and asphalt.
Adam told me about it.
yeah,
Triples the life of asphalt, or reduces the amount of cement needed by some 35 or 40%. And it's such a small portion of the mix, it's unbelievable. 1/10 of 1% or less in asphalt triples the life of asphalt.
you still got the pipes underneath it that got to be replaced.
I know, but you're gonna do those graphene too.
Okay.
You watch, it's coming.
Okay.
This is an answer that's coming fast. about 50 graphene manufacturers in the country, and it's rising rapidly.
It's not gonna be next PFAS though, right?
What's that? This is a natural carbon element. It's
It
been
is.
around forever.
Okay.
It's the strongest element, well, almost one of the strongest elements on the planet. A two-dimensional layer of graphene covering a football field weighs less than 1 gram.
Huh.
So its capabilities are endless.
Where do we invest?
What's that?
Where do we invest, Jeff? Okay, let's get
We
moving.
can do that, we'll do that at another meeting. I could talk about this for quite a while because I am heavily engaged in some study of it. So we're capital projects overview and we're
And
capital
then
projects 20.
the only other one that recently came to light is Selfridge Park. We were awarded a stewardship grant, so that's going to involve a paved trail, a playground, a kayak launch, a dock. So there's some improvements there. That is being probably delayed into next year because we've met with Alliant Energy and their consultants. There is an area of contamination that presently has a cap on it. The DNR wants to enhance the capping and I think some other aspects of the contaminated site. And its Alliance goal is that by meeting the DNR's enhanced requirements, hopefully yet this year, that then they'll get case closure on that, and then they'll be able to close, obviously we just wouldn't be able to.
Crack filling?
Oh, crack filling. That's what we're working on this year with the county, to crack fill all the highlighted roads. Last year we did about the same amount. What my goal is, once this year's done, then we'll continue in a clockwise fashion around the community and just repeat that cycle. So based on that, it's my hope that we'd be able to divide the community up into thirds and work it into a 3-year program. That is the area that I am just this is for sidewalk improvement. I am just waiting for the reports from our consultants so that we can send out the letters. So it was my goal to have those letters at least ready, if not sent out by the end of this week. But I had to send an email earlier today, and I've not gotten a response back as far as where's their report. It was my understanding that they've completed the survey as far as their walkthrough there.
I have a question on, I live in Newberry, and we had grinding and replacement done, I think it was 3 years ago now,
Okay.
maybe 2,
Yeah.
3 years ago. But there are certainly, I wouldn't say quite a few, and maybe not so major, but where they ground and the sidewalk is already lifting back up again, either because of, there's a tree in the terrace or, or it's starting to drop down. Is there anything that we're looking at when we do grinding or replacement as far as, I don't even know if there's something we can do to see if there's a better way or a longer term way to approach it, or is it just one of those we're gonna have to let it be the fix it is now and come back around and it'll get it at the next one?
Depends on what's causing it. You say tree roots, that as the tree grows,
Yeah.
it's going to continue to affect it. I've dealt with that. The only solution to that is don't plant trees in the terrace.
Which that's not a good solution,
No,
because then you
no.
don't plant trees. Where else do they go?
Right.
Right.
I planted a tree in my yard that was close to a paved driveway, and when I saw surface roots inching under the driveway, I took it upon myself to cut the roots. That gets down to is, that's a matter of staff time.
Right.
Going around and checking every tree for roots.
Right,
Or is a property owner going to take it upon themselves?
There's only so many times you can grind it
Right.
before replacement
Then you
is
just
warranted.
replace it too.
Right.
And you could replace it, but arguably then, not only to the city and the property owner, the cost quadruples.
Yes, right.
Or
Yeah.
more. So, and then on top of that, you have the tree, you might as well get rid of the tree if that's what's causing it, because it's putting new sidewalk down. So
Right on top of it.
you are just multiplying the cost. So, So, it's not the perfect solution. It's just,
Right. And my approach is, we're just eliminating trip hazards. We're not addressing where we have water pooling or anything like that, because I'm trying to stretch the dollars as far as I
Right.
can.
Yeah.
Last year and this year, I spent about half an hour walking with the gentleman that does the analysis, just make sure that we're both got the same mindset. And as we walked down Lincoln Street, do this here, do this there, and we're both on the same mindset. In some cases, it pointed out how if we're gonna do something to this one, skip a section and do one here, it might be more reasonable to, in the case that I'm thinking of, it was more reasonable to replace the center one and meet the two that were on the outside.
Okay.
So we're using some logic like that.
but if you see the pace, you're on Newberry, if you look at this map, we're only getting to Grove and Lincoln
Yeah.
and Thomas.
Well, that's right, in my
Now it's
district
3
too,
years
so
ago.
it's,
So we're not making the pace,
yeah,
Right.
again,
but we're doing,
how many dollars and man hours we have available to handle it, yep.
It's a product of the policy that we have here, when the city is paying one half of the bill and the residents are paying the other half, whereas where it came from, the residents were responsible for it, except where it was determined that the tree was causing the issue. And then I also had the flexibility there that if there was recent village work where there was a storm line or a water or sewer that was put underneath the sidewalk, that was a city-sponsored project, and it started seeing settling,
Yeah,
then
disturbed it.
I'd build the utility for that. We don't have that luxury here, so.
Also, if they remove trees, you might not notice it right away, but after so many years of roots rot, and that's when you're gonna end up with sidewalk cracking and sinking.
Frankly, removing the trees, you lose a lot of curb appeal. I think you lose value. There's a lot of value to a tree that you can't put $1 to.
I'll harp on my optical narrowing. The trees make the driver slow down because it feels like the road is narrower, even if you haven't physically made the road narrower, which means everyone slows down a little bit and the streets are safer. Wave my little flag for that one.
Interesting. New DPW facility, okay.
we'll share some just quick renderings of what it's being designed to look like. So this is off of Aspen. Here's the main office entry, and here's the exit of the vehicle storage area. Kind of just a shot of the front entry. We'll obviously do some signage and whatnot, and some other elements, and then this is the full area here. So vehicle storage is back here. Water department is right here with these 3 bays. This is the vehicle maintenance shop. So there's 3.5 doors there. And then this is the vehicle wash bay on the back end. There's also a water fill station being designed out to allow for trucks to access the a fill station for bulk water. You can see here, this is kind of the layout of the inside vehicle storage. You see some of the office area down here, starting conference room and whatnot. And then this is the water area with the 3 garages, and then the maintenance shop and the wash bay. That's a bunch of stuff.
What's the life cycle of the building and how are you paying for it?
So the life cycle of the building, we decided to construct it with tilt-up concrete, precast concrete.
Yep.
So we would hope that the lifespan is 50+ years. We had done an experiment, or a little not experiment, but an investigation into pre-fabricated metal or pre-engineered metal buildings, which would last less, but we decided to go this way. You can see the whole site here. stormwater retention, parking for staff, and as well as for residents and customers. So, you know, obviously designing it as efficiently and as advanced as we can within the budget we have. How we are paying for it will be long-term bonding and utility revenues. So utility rate case has built in the waters portion of it as well. Overall, you know, the budget is around $11 million. The council has been active in approving equipment purchases, or at least ordering it, so we have it ready to go. You know, we're moments away from releasing the bid. It's obviously a, you know, once in a lifetime type project.
Yeah, once in a career project.
So obviously keeping the facility operating, back here where the old building is, that's the old building, that little square there. So you can see obviously the old building, you can probably fit 3 of them in the new one. That's partially because you're adding water, but partially because we have outgrown that space by a lot.
For decades.
For decades. So this is a good view. So the blue here is the office. So you'll have some offices down here. You'll have an entryway with a reception, some open areas, a nice break area, conference rooms, etc. Right? Water area, and then water office down here, maintenance bay, and then here's kind of the layout of all that. We've gone through color selection of walls. We've gone through selection of carpet,
Tile, everything.
furniture. So we've done that all. Kimberly, Wisconsin actually just bid out a similar building. Alan was actually there when they started that, because that was his former, and SEH, the designers of that, did that project. Theirs came in significantly under anticipated cost. So we're hopeful that a soft bidding or soft contractor market right now will allow us to get this for under budget.
Is the city responsible for any maintenance on the fire trucks? Or is that all
No,
handled separately?
all handled separately, at least for now. So this is kind of the scope. There's a lot of plans, but these are about 100%. We hope to be bid out by June.
I know they're gonna tear down the old building there. What are they gonna do with the water building?
The water building is literally, have you ever been down there and see it?
Yeah, it's like the office or
Yeah,
whatever it
it's
is.
the little yellow
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the little
house. That's,
concrete, whatever it is. I'm talking about the building that the water department's in right now.
there's nothing down there that's going to be tore down. The water
Okay.
department is in a prefabricated old
Yeah.
house.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it was a house that they paid $28,000 for about
Oh,
10
that's
years
what's
ago.
going on. Okay.
To put them in this prefabbed. Okay, so that will stay for the time being. We'll use it for storage. But ultimately, as we look at the wastewater treatment plant and the facility plan there, that will be an area to expand.
Right, okay.
So we'll eventually tear it down. Or if we can lift it up, maybe find a lot to move into, because it's a house. It's a
Yeah, well,
one bedroom.
Like I said, I was there a couple times, and I was like, okay.
So, yeah, that's kind of the upside. These are, so this'll,
You gonna sell naming rights or anything?
we are going to, I believe, we've been to the Historical Society to get some photographs of old DPW Ripon and storm events and things like that. We've looked at taking the letters from the old building and reusing them on the inside of it. So we're trying to do some interior decorating that we can be, proud of and also remind our staff as to why they are here and working. So there's a lot of branding and a lot of things we are continuing to review as part of this project. So we'll see how that all goes. We're still sort of working that out, but got time there.
I asked Alan when I was down there if they were taking the really cool Art Deco metal Department of Public Works masonry like inlay off of that and reusing it, and he said they were going to look at if they could. So
Well, that'd be neat.
I'm going to throw a vote in for that and say pick a little Art Deco touch and go for it.
So the planning commission just approved the site plan as well as they approved a survey to combine all the lots together. So we are set to go, just based, it's just a couple things they're getting cleaned up, but overall, we're close. So,
You have a planned break ground date then too?
it could be, as soon as August, I would guess, at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Okay, capital improvement planning for, well, we sort of went over some of that, right?
Yeah.
Anything else to add, or are we?
Not really.
No, it's just, heavy equipment is, as Adam's aware, is, we're seeing some significant repairs as of late, so, that'll be just another area that we have to figure out a funding game plan going forward.
The street sweeper should be here within the next, hopefully, 3 weeks, so.
That was delayed by the bridge collapse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are we going to name that one?
We'll see. We'll see what we
Okay.
do.
I just asked a question.
It can't come soon enough, that one, because the
Yeah,
old
I-
one is not in good shape.
The old one needs some repairs, and I've just, out of principle, I refuse to put more money into it. So when you see it going down the road and leaving a trail behind, it's not because we're ignoring anything. I'm just not going to put
Yeah.
money into a
Yep.
dead horse.
Yep.
Months ago, when you were looking for people, when you were posting jobs, one of the people you were looking for had a CDL requirement, right? Weren't you looking for somebody?
Correct.
Because there was one vehicle that required CDL. What was that vehicle?
All of our plow trucks require CDL. As
Oh, I
well
thought
as
there was
the-
like one specific one that we don't use a lot. All right.
The tanker endorsement, and that's because of the jetter truck, because of the size of the tank on the jetter truck.
Okay.
So that's why we want that. So, of which the jetter truck is down right now. The pump broke. There's a shaft with a gear on it that somehow it's sheared. So we're trying, and that truck is from the 1990s for that pump. The parts are no longer manufactured, and we cannot find them available anywhere. So we're reaching out to machine shops to see if there's a way to salvage the broken shaft that has a machine gear on it. The gear, we weren't fortunate enough that the gear was fit on it with a keyway. It's actually machined as part of the shaft. So
Wow. Check
Yeah.
Ripon truck at all, and they're pretty creative out there.
we're checking with a number of them. John Quackle has someone locally looking at it, depending on what they say. There's a creative machinist in Oshkosh that I'm familiar with, but Ripon Truck would be another one that we might check with. So it's a matter of, can somebody weld a shaft together and then machine it so that it's true?
Don't ask me.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
40
like
It can be done.
40
I've
years
seen
ago,
it.
there's a whole fleet of guys like that down at Alliance that would be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now there's,
Well, we have a machine shop in town here, I'm sure they could handle it,
Yeah.
like you say.
I think that's where
Machinists are,
yeah.
I think that's where John took it, and then the next step would be reaching out to other companies that have a reputation for being inventive
Right.
and having a quality to
Yep.
it. So
Getting a bid and comparing. yeah.
Okay,
let Adam walk us through the bridges.
So I just did a summary, so you don't have to see them all, but basically, when we were working on Pacific Street bridge, Jeff brought it up, is you can just look down there. There is a cement block blocking the west side of the bridge. You can't see because trees have leaves now. But ultimately, that was hit. We had it inspected and looked at before, because obviously you don't want somebody hitting it again and falling in. What we found was that the way it was constructed and some of the codes or how you build bridges and ensure that the decking and the guardrails are okay weren't really done correctly, and we couldn't really do much down there without really looking at the full structure. So that led us to do an inspection of the Pacific Street Bridge. That resulted in a recommendation from MSA to consider full replacement of the bridge versus sticking any money in to repair it. That led us to a effort with MSA to go through our remaining 8 or 9 bridges, but they're really just crossings, and have them all rated and inspected. There are not ones on here that are DOT rated, so there are a few of them, if you don't see, that are actually done by the county. 4 of those. So we have approximately 13 or 14 crossings that we are somewhat responsible for. These ones are 100% us. The state has come out again now too with a inspection process, so we have complied with that, because these projects or these bridges and passings are not eligible for federal funding. We do not have any grant ability to do them. It's basically on us as the city, and so hopefully that changes in the coming years as the state looks at some of these. So the Pacific Street Bridge became a general, okay, this one is in rough shape, there's some issues. There was work done about 20 some years ago to band-aid it, but it is now at a point where it is being recommended for it's a poor rating based on WISDOT and the engineer's perspective and rating. So you look here, East Jackson, the Hamburg Street Retaining Wall, Arcade Road Bridge, Northwestern Trail Bridge, Pacific Street Bridge, and Washington Street Bridge all are rated poor and are recommended for replacement. You then get into West Fond du Lac Bridge, that is fair, and then you got Eureka Street Retaining Wall, and then Liberty Street Bridge, all are good. So those are good, but these become candidates for replacement. We have never planned in our capital improvement plan for bridges or crossings of this nature. State Street was one that was elevated after the experience with Tiger Street Bridge collapsing and failing over the last couple years. We looked at State Street. That one was being inspected about annually or biannually, and when that inspection was being done by MSA, they said this needs to be done quickly. So obviously State Street would go back on this list and would be rated hopefully a 9 or new. But beyond that, these now will become priorities for planning. As you can see, the East Jackson Street Bridge is the worst rated of them all. And following that, obviously, like the Northwestern Trail Bridge is right down here. That's just one we maintained. If the trail goes over it, it's one we had inspected. Obviously not as big of a priority as a road, bridge, but we wanted to get those in the queue as well. So ultimately, Alan and I have sort of been through this. We have a whole summary of each one, and it's a kind of a big gulp because they're about $500 to $1 million a crack. So, obviously not everyone needs to be replaced all at once, but it's a factor. It's something we have to factor into our planning moving forward.
So you've obviously got 2 other choices, maybe more. Don't replace them, or could you go Pacific and Washington one way, so the bridge could be tighter? one way on one street, one the other way on the other?
I think from a cost perspective, I don't know how much you'd save from the structure of making it narrower, if it's really worth it. What it comes down to is really looking at the crossings and seeing which ones really are necessary and if there are means to eliminate crossings.
Is there weight restrictions on those bridges or anything?
We weren't
goes?
advised to put weight restrictions yet.
No, we weren't,
Okay, well, that's what I
Yeah.
was asking, because I've been involved with that before too.
but none of these are designed to the DOT spec. We would be moving forward, we would design all of them, particularly like Pacific and obviously East Jackson. We would likely go to a true bridge. We would move it to a true bridge. So it becomes eligible for funding moving forward, because right now they are all not. So, we gotta chip away at them, but,
So fixing them, you're saying we don't have any money available in grants to fix them because they're not DOT. So if we pick one every 3 years and we tear it up and rebuild it as a DOT bridge, does funding become available?
it may. So that's what we've been engaging MSA on. But we may not get as high of a priority, or there may be, because they're super competitive grant funds, right? So,
Recently, all communities were required to start a process to evaluate all non-DOT bridges that exceeded, 6 feet in
Yep.
wingspan? So, frankly, by doing this, we got out in front of that was the state requirement or
the
federal?
state's coming through and making everybody inventory their local bridges, because what they're finding is most communities' bridges aren't funded through DOT or have federal,
Right.
they're not bridges, but they're failing,
Yep.
all at once. So they want an inventory, so that's the first thing. So then they may fund them in the future. So these may become eligible. The problem is every community probably has a bridge or two that needs to be fixed. Our goal would be like Pacific Street, we've talked about that, we would go to a DOT and see if we could get it funded that way. We may be limited to that because I think a DOT bridge has to exceed 20 feet.
Yeah, yep.
So we may not even be able to build it to that spec because we may not have
20 feet to
the
spare.
20 feet to do it. So we have all of the reports. We'll just sort of plan from here on out. But
When was that bridge put in the late 30s or the?
Pacific Street, in the late 90s, they replaced the deck, or the span.
Yeah.
They replaced they did not do anything with the supporting foundations.
Right.
Those are the original foundations that they basically tuck pointed, and that has eroded away over time. And then it's all stone. It's not, instead of masonry, so the stone probably, between the stone and the mortar, it absorbs water, and then due to freeze-thaw cycles, it erodes over time.
I know a lot of them were done by the WPA in town here, so
probably 3 in a row.
could be. And the one that took out, I knew that was done by them.
But ultimately, it'll become a planning tool, and we're also looking at potentially putting together, because there's some things that need to be done immediately. There's some riprap, there's some other stuff that needs to be done to preserve some of these. So we'll work on getting that done as well over the next year. So,
All right, lots to do. Well site investigation?
I can take this one too. We've been working with SEH on finding a well site for, to drill a new municipal well. I have a map here. We originally had done a water master plan, and right here, here's well number 5. This is to replace well number 5. It was built just over 100 years ago, 1920 something, maybe 1930. So it's about 90 some years old. So it's right in the center of Here's the mill pond, so it's right next to, behind Alliant Energy's Fenton Street site. It's an amazing well. The floor is high performing, but the infrastructure is tired, and it's an amazing piece of infrastructure from when it was built, but it lacks some upgrades and lacks some reliability at this point. So there's a water master plan that took what are here called Zone 6 and Zone 7 to create two wells and a treatment plant. We've started looking at these sites. The DNR has flagged these two sites. They're basically across from each other. At the recent council meeting, there was an individual wanting to buy one of these sites for the Union Hall expansion. We would not recommend that the city part ways with those properties at this point because of this well site investigation. We need to know where we can build, and we own property. That is the first place we look. But these two sites, the DNR has looked at them and said there are contamination issues, meaning there are sites within a 200-foot radius that, you know, where say like an old gas station or an old dump site, right? So they may disqualify these sites over the next time. So we've looked at alternative sites, including Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3 on the south side of town, Zone 4 over on this area, and then Zone 5 out in this area. We cannot go back out this way, okay, towards well 8, 6, and 9 because of the watershed, and I believe, I don't know if it's contamination or if it's just the Superfund site, so they want you kind of away from that. So we are pushed out to the east. So we are now, after these two sites, we had been planning on them. They were the preferred sites. We know that well 5 is a workhorse, that the water quality there is has been solid for 90 years. It could save us money because we don't have to buy the land. The DNR has kind of flipped that whole plan up and said no. So we are essentially back to square one with our well site investigation and our water master plan, because if the idea is to build 2 wells and a treatment facility instead of 2 wells and 2 treatment facilities to treat the water that we pump, that's a $4 million question, and we're going to try to do everything we can to not spend that $4 million, and because soon thereafter, well number 5 is done, we will need to look at finding a spot for well 11. So we will be drilling back-to-back wells, likely in the next 10 years, pretty quickly. So we have to find the site. So they will be going and doing an investigation around each one of these sites to determine what is the best area to do a well and try to acquire property, or find kind of 2 pieces that fit the puzzle we're trying to put together.
It's too bad they can't get into Hattie Park where the springs are. There's a spring house down in Hattie Park.
Where's that?
In Hattie Park, down here. County owns that.
Oh.
But there's a spring house down in there,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually have the old pipes that used to supply the city when our wells were getting dried out.
We had, so we're not pulling, we're pulling from drilling wells, right?
Well, I know you are,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that must be an aquifer right there if they got the springs coming up in that area.
So, we may be limited on some of the, there's a lot of factors that go into this, including environmental concerns, including past water quality. We look at growth of the city. Where does it make sense? We look at land costs. We look at a whole bunch of stuff when it goes into determining the right site.
Is well 11 just a capacity
Yeah.
driven? Okay.
Yep. So well 11 is a capacity driven, because once well 10 is actually up, we cannot retire well 5 until well 8 is rehabbed as well. So, and then once well 5 is down, and well 10 is back up, and well 8 is rehabbed. Once you set well 5 down, depending on the capacity of 10, you may need 11 to build back the capacity of 5. So it's all
Interrelated. Okay,
So just wanted to provide an update there.
all right. Credit meter policy review, we got that in a separate email, I believe, right?
So the credit meter policy is basically it's for well, we want pools and new lawns and everything in the city of Ripon, and so how to do this is citizens can rent a outdoor spigot meter, and that would be, the rental is $10 a month. What it is then it credits, you can credit back after done renting the meter. It goes on your spigot, and you use your hose to water your yards or fill your pools. And when you're done, you return the meter, and they credit the sewer fees back. So we were looking to get a policy written. We've had a number of citizens, and then we had the community garden. People would like to utilize such a meter so that they can save a little money on their water bills. So if you guys have reviewed the credit policy, and then we also have the form, which will should be filled out before they rent it, and has to be approved. So that we're looking for approval from you all to,
So a motion to recommend to council would be in order?
yes.
Okay.
I just have a question.
Sure.
What would be a reason that an application might be not approved? You know, would you look at?
Previous violations, possibly.
Okay, yeah.
Pool's too big.
I was just curious what.
A lot of communities
what-
have that. No, it's a good idea. The only problem is if you have 2 spigots on your house, what are you gonna do? Have 2 meters for watering your
Yeah,
gardens?
you pretty much, I think that the people would use the meter because they want it credited back,
Right.
so.
And I do believe the meter is, it's just.
They can move
you
it
can
back
move
and
it.
forth.
You can move it from
You
spigot
can
to
move it
spigot.
from side to side.
Yeah, it's on a hose, and
Remove the
it's,
hose.
yeah.
Yeah,
Have a quick disconnect there.
yeah.
Okay, well, no, I was just wondering about that because,
They also have the option of putting a permanent meter in. We already do that. If they wanna, hire a plumber to install a permanent meter, they can do that. And we have, the wastewater guys go read these meters once a year.
right.
So there
Well,
are a few around town that they actually
I know in
have
other
that.
communities that I've been involved with, they've had that for a long time, and it was really well, it was good because then they had the sewer bill on top of this stuff. So.
Yeah,
And just previously practice with pools was circle what shaped pool you have, how many, how deep is it? How many
yeah, I
times did
actually
you
have
fill it?
that, yeah, so.
And then trying to calculate.
Yeah, here's the current pool form, and it's kind of, it's a little bit excessive. But, so this kind of simplifies things a little bit, and it makes it so that the water department, has a little bit better handle on where, the meters are, and because it's kind of hard to get a credit back sometimes, and there's a lot of calculation involved when they're trying to figure out how much you previously used in the, last quarter, or, you have to average them all out and then kind of give them an
You guys
idea.
have enough to do.
It used to be in some communities, actually, that the fire department would fill the pool, but there was a stipulation. If they needed water, they could come to your pool and pump it
take it.
Oh,
out.
wow.
But I remember, there were some communities that were like that, so.
All right, so a motion to recommend to council would be in order.
I'll make a motion to recommend to council the new credit meter policy and application form.
I'll second that.
Second, moved and seconded, further discussion? Not, I'll call the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, project updates, I think we really did that, didn't we? Or is there something else here at number 6?
The only thing, just a window into what Katie and I are working on. I'll be working on, we received a grant last year for converting our street lighting from the present to LED. I'll be working on soliciting quotes to get that done. Earlier this year, Ashton, our Parks and Rec director, and I did a quick tour through all of our parks, came up with basically a list of things that aren't being done annually that should be done annually or periodically from a maintenance standpoint, a list of deferred maintenance items, and then started developing a vision for improvements. So we'll be plugging away at those, trying to work those into our daily, weekly, and long-range game plans. So those are the big ones I'm working on as of late.
I have, the wastewater plant is in the middle of a permit renewal application, which involves a lot of testing. So we've had to send in sludge samples for PFAS testing, and Wednesday we send in our effluent samples for a whole very large range of testing. So this is every 5 years we go through permit renewal. And then the water department is currently doing lead and copper testing. And by June 30th, we need 40 lead and copper samples done. So they're really working on that. So,
And from a wastewater treatment, the things that Katie's dealing with is the ever-evolving phosphorus and chloride levels that are changing, and then we're hearing that PFAS is going to start being regulated as far as waste disposal in the sludge. So we don't know what the rules are. The DNR doesn't know what the rules are. They're gathering information, kind of like with the bridges or the small water crossings. They don't know what the enormity is, so they've got to gather information, and so they use us to get the information to then develop the final rules.
I know the liability insurance people are dropping that off their liability insurance, the PFAS. So if you're a contractor, they eliminated that from or won't cover the,
Or you pay extra.
yeah. But I don't know if the city be, involved with that or not.
Not necessarily, but there's a lot of funding and things coming up from the federal and state levels that are dealing with PFAS and emerging contaminants, but we are still, as a state, grappling, other than areas where there's more prevalent use of it, we're still grappling with testing.
Okay.
I just had a question. For replacing the streetlights with LEDs, I know there's probably a couple different designs of modules now, some of them more easily integrate into the existing housings. But I've noticed there's a lot of glare off the side more for some of the LED designs. I was just wondering if that was something that you were looking at or aware of, or...
As it relates to, I'll use the lights along our highways. Those will be likely dictated by pre-approved items through the state.
Yeah, okay.
Through the state.
Yep.
As it relates to the ornamental lighting in our subdivisions, I don't know what to expect for that right now.
Okay.
I have to dive into this, and it could be as simple as replacing the bulb inside the existing,
Right.
or will it be changing out the fixture head,
Yep.
or perhaps the entire
The
fixture.
whole arm and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, right, okay.
So, I am aware of what you're talking about, because in 3 other communities I work for, glare was an issue, and so I've come to realize that with the LED fixtures, there is a lot of design in the refractory area of
Yes.
that
Yep.
to minimize backside
Yep.
lighting or promote certain certain fashions, so.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Project update and staff reports, I'm sorry, suggestions for agenda items for the next meeting. We can either mention them quickly now or circle back to the three of you if we have any ideas. You are trying to schedule another meeting real soon though, right?
No, I don't, we don't, sooner than a year from now.
Okay. Didn't I just see a doodle poll come up?
That's for a different one.
Oh,
But
okay.
we can set one for a couple months if we have some updates.
Well, when you get some information or the contracts come up for the building, you know, it'd be kind of nice to get an update on that anyway.
Well, a lot of information, nice reporting. Got a lot to think about, a big chessboard out there, never ends.
Been a busy year.
Okay, motion to adjourn will be in order.
I'll make them, go ahead.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Moved and seconded, further discussion, call the question.
I'll make a motion to second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Well, it was nice meeting you all.